Adventure Warriors, episode 497. Woo! As always, I'm your host, Justin Baker, and as always, I'm joined by viable human Chris Saturn.
497 episodes in, you're a consummate professional at this point, Justin. I just want to compliment you on how effectively and consistently you open our show.
No one ever listened to the uncut. You'll never know. Just believe that we do it good once.
Yeah, we do good every time.
Oh, yeah. Anyone that believes that probably also believes that plays are just done off the top of people's heads when they go to the theater.
It's the first time reading the script. What?
We do have some housekeeping.
Yes, sir.
Which is that, first off, I've begun, beginned streaming to the Twitch.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to do it more.
The Amazon Twitch?
The Amazon's Twitch.
Yeah.
Amazon's Twitch with Dante from Devil May Cry.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I've been trying to do lunchtime streams for at least a couple hours, 2 or 3 times a week.
Okay.
So that's like 11 to 1-ish Central. We're UTC -6 for those people that want to like do the math.
Well, this time of year we are. During daylight savings,
yeah.
Sometimes that changes.
Yes. But I am streaming, so if you want to come hang out while I stream for like a nice lunchtime stream, or if you're in the UK and maybe like an evening stream, I think it'd be like 4, 5, 6-ish o'clock for the UK
they're 6
crowd.
hours ahead of us, so
okay, so somewhere around there, after work stream for them.
Yeah.
But it's been fun. I quit doing it previously because I hated it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And so I'm trying to find stuff that I enjoy streaming more because I'm learning that the thing I'm streaming has a big impact on how much I enjoy streaming.
You don't say.
I know. And so games that take a lot of my attention are really hard for me to stream because I'm very bad at games. And so I get all hyper-focused on the game and I'm like, oh yeah, there's a camera pointed at me and I'm on chat. So I've been trying to play more relaxing things.
That's fair.
Also, we have to note, as of the night of recording, the Switch 2 has been announced.
Well, revealed.
It
was announced some time ago. Today, they just showed a 2-minute video of what it looks like.
The teaser has happened. We're recording on the 16th of January. But because we put the news split chronologically between the two shows...
Right.
We will not be discussing that until next episode. I just wanted to say that for people that come to our show for timely news. What are you doing?
Yeah, why?
Because we record in batches, we get the news every 2 weeks, and so it's just going to kind of be, especially if you're on the main feed, you're not on the uncut feed. If you're on the uncut feed, it'll be relatively timely. But if you're on the main feed and you're listening primarily that way, then you're going to get it. Us talking about it a week late. So for a whole week, if you're like, why didn't they mention the Switch 2? That's why. Because we record in batches. So it's just how time works, you know? Yeah. So my week, I'm currently at, let's see, I was going to look at the number again. 300, hold on. 300, it's loading. Steam, 332.3 hours of Cookie Clicker.
Okay. I'm at 308 hours.
Yeah, so I'm a little ahead of you. I haven't been running it for the last day and a half, though. So.
Yeah, I had stopped running it for a few days there just because I've not really gotten anything new out of it. And so I felt like I was kind of done with it.
Cookie Clicker is an idle game for people that don't know, which is its own very...
I think we discussed it last time.
I think we did, but it's its own genre. I think I've kind of like... mined the depths of it for the most part, and I think I've just reached the point where it's like just figuring out how to mathematically maximize things and be as efficient as possible, and that's where I kind of fall out of it.
My prestige level hit 2 quadrillion, and I was like, I don't think I'm getting anything additional out of this anymore. So
I'd like to finish the tech trees in it, but it seems like you just got to grind out the hours for that. And when I'm playing it on Steam and it's running upstairs, I can't play Steam games elsewhere because it boots it off. And if I boot up Steam in offline mode, I don't think I get achievements while I'm playing.
Right. Well, you sometimes can, but it doesn't timestamp them.
But then also I don't get my heralds, which doubles my cookies. So. I think I'm, for the $1 I paid for it to get 332, hours out of it, not that they were active hours, it was mostly sitting idle, then that's it's fine. Also, I've been streaming MMOs, and I started with Guild Wars 2.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you could call it a series or not, but when I stream, I really want people coming in, because a lot of people come in and they seem to have expectations that, oh, you're a person that's streaming video games, you must know how to play video games, and I don't know how to play video games.
Right.
And so my streams are always entitled, I don't know how to play game title. So I did a couple streams of I don't know how to play Guild Wars 2. And it's pretty fun. I'm pretty impressed with it. I've kind of been in that MMO mood lately. I get in that mood in the wintertime, and 14 just wasn't sticking for me. I kept trying to get through Heaven's Word, and it was just fucking slog. It's just not consistently fun. Like, fun is there. Fun can be had, but it's not consistent enough for me. You know what I mean?
I feel like you and I enjoy the opposite things in those kind of games.
Yeah.
Though.
Like, I would log in and be like, all right, I'm going to log in and play for 20 minutes and just be like, this is just kind of miserable and nothing happened. And then other times I'd log in and play for an hour and be like, oh, this is pretty fun. I got to have a fun time. And so I was just kind of struggling with it, and I was looking for something else, and I was like, well, let's try Guild Wars 2. I think I booted up Lord of the Rings Online like one time, and then was just like, I can't, their account system is so fucked, I can't handle it. And then I circled back around to, I played it for a few hours last year, I think, or right around the time I was doing the EverQuest Project 99 show.
Mm-hmm.
RuneScape. I came back around to RuneScape and have, for whatever reason, I think this is what happened. I think Cookie Clicker unlocked some kind of weird idle game thing in my brain. Because I really enjoy the idea of just something that I can just sort of leave running at all times and poke at sometimes. And RuneScape is very much like an idle, like it's like DNA is like part idle game. And I never really knew that about the game, because at the low levels, everything comes so fast that you can't really idle any of your skills or anything. You kind of got to be at the computer for it.
Okay.
But when you start gaining levels, things start taking more protracted amounts of time. But the mechanics of the game, while complex in the way they interact with each other, the actual way you as the player interact with the mechanics are usually pretty simple. So, like, fighting an enemy is click on an enemy, and then your man will fight that man until one of you is no more, right?
Until there's less men's.
Right, and that's it. There's no, like at high levels, you can do some special stuff, but for the most part, the combat is just your stats versus their stats, and you click on them, and it goes.
Yeah.
And so, as you get higher level, the things you're doing take longer amounts of time, so you can legitimately AFK the game. Like, I've been grinding combat the last couple days, and it just is going in my living room. And as long as I interact with the UI at least once every half hour, which usually I walk through the living room at least once every half hour, so I just push my mouse button when I walk through, my guy will stay there and keep fighting crabs.
I see.
And so I'm finding ways to kind of turn it into an idle game, but then here's the tricky part. When I sit down and I'm like, oh, I'm going to play I want to get some actual game time in. Well, RuneScape is already open, and I've gained a level or two in some stuff, so I've kind of unlocked some new content, and the other half of the game is active, interesting content that you can enjoy. And so then I'm like, well, this is already open, I'll go do a quest or two here, and then, it's been 3 hours. So it is, so it's just kind of become a part of my daily routine now.
Okay.
In that I can idle it, and then when I want to actively play a game, I sit down and can do some active content, and the stuff I do while idling unlocks more and more active time content. And I'm just kind of like trapped in this like brain chemical cycle, this like Skinner box of software.
Yeah.
I'm not upset about it. But then, and then of course I'm playing the game, and I joined a clan just to have people to talk to in the game.
Okay.
And it was just like a social one, so it's just people to chat with. And so I'm chatting with people, I'm learning about the game, and they're like, oh, you got to go look up such and such video or this historical moment in the game. And I forget that the game's been running for like 24 years.
Oh, yeah.
Nonstop.
Time there, yeah.
And I'm specifically playing old school RuneScape, to be clear, because there's 2 RuneScapes, right? It was a weird thing. And the amount of history that has been preserved in this game through videos and video essays is insane. like actual historical moments that people. There's like some guy was like, "Oh, you got to look up the Falador massacre," and I'm like, "The what?" And it's just literally like 100 videos of people combing through forums and old other videos to like document this historical glitch that occurred that caused people to kill each other in town 12 years ago or whatever. It has been too convenient for me to not be constantly interacting with. That's the trap I've fallen into, is that it's always open, it's always here. It's on my phone. It runs on every computer I own because it's an old as shit game.
Yeah.
My old ThinkPad runs it. It runs great on my phone. It runs on my desktop. It runs on my laptop. It runs on my wife's laptop. It runs on my kid's laptop. It runs on everyone's computer.
I think you discovered why it's still running.
I think so, yeah. And so it's just everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's always open. And I'm like, oh, I guess I'll do another quest. And then I do my quest. And after I finish my quest, it's like, oh, you need these skills for the next quest. I'm like, all right, well, I'll go grind those. Well, while that's grinding, I'll go make dinner and do chores or go to the store. So I've been doing a lot of RuneScape lately. I don't know how many hours. I'm scared to click. They do the smart thing where you can click to see how many hours you played, but before you do, it gives you a warning that says, are you sure you want to know how many hours you played? And every time I click it, I go, no, and I chicken out. So that's where I am. A lot of RuneScape. Saturn, what have you been playing?
So a few things. I did try Caves of Cud.
Oh, I'm so
because
excited.
You sent it to me.
I'm so excited.
You should not be, because I bounced off it pretty quick and pretty hard.
Oh no, that's not good.
I opened it up and was immediately overwhelmed by everything.
It is low, yeah. Like I said, you gotta have that session 0 where you just kind of figure shit out for an hour or two.
Yeah, I did the tutorial because it has the little interactive tutorial thing.
Yeah,
and immediately was just turned off by everything because like there's no background on my character. There's no expository introduction. There's nothing to get me into the world first before it just kind of drops me in.
Yeah, I never really thought about it. I guess the tutorial is very mechanically oriented because it's not until you drop into Joppa that you can start talking to people and seeing what's going on.
Yeah, I was just really struggling to find myself caring about any of it. So I'm going to give it another go. Maybe outside of the tutorial where I know the basics at least.
Yeah, the tutorial is very much like this is how the game mechanically works because so much of the back end history is generated procedurally that they can give you history, but it's gonna be different when you actually generate a game.
Yeah.
You know.
So I don't know. I'm gonna give it another go, but I'm wary if I will click with it.
I would say get into Joppa and go talk to the village elder, and that kind of gives you your quest. He's like, hey, if you're looking for stuff to do, talk to this guy, or this guy, and then those start you on quest threads.
Okay.
Now, granted, it's still a roguelike. I mean, it's not like, here's our grand prescribed narrative, but it will give you like, hey, here's some people that need help, and here's some stuff they need help with, and, you know, there's some threads.
A path, at least.
Yeah, there's a path. Yeah, I didn't really think about that. The tutorial is very much like, this is how to mechanically interact with Cud.
Yeah.
And then it's like, good, cool, go to the... When you finish the tutorial, it does just drop you into Joppa. So if you just go all the way through it, it will spit you out.
I got through the tutorial to a town, and...
yeah, that's Joppa. Yeah.
Yeah, I looked around in the town and was like, none of this is doing anything for me.
Well, yeah. Well, it starts you next to a couple NPCs, and one of them's like the helper guy that's like, hi, I'm the helper guy. Do you want to talk to me about shit?
Yeah, I just... it did not click with me. So, yeah, anyway...
Sad.
I may give it another shot and see if I get anywhere. I was playing around with my PSVR 2 a little bit more.
Oh yeah.
I plugged it back into the PlayStation to see what I could do with that, and I will give it credit for this. The on the PS5, it immediately detects that it's plugged in, obviously, and once you put it on, it immediately detects that someone is wearing it. And it starts tracking your eyes and everything because it's got the eye trackers on it.
Right.
And as soon as I did put it on, it was like, hey, you've adjusted your settings since the last time you did this, because I was playing with it on my PC.
Oh, yeah, right.
And it was like, do you want to correct your settings to adjust back to the PlayStation? And I assumed that meant it was going to open up the whole settings screen and make me go through clicking what looks right and everything. And so I hit yes, and it was just like done, and it immediately auto adjusted the focus and everything. I was like, oh, that's much nicer.
Yeah,
that does look nicer. but I didn't really have much in VR to play. I tested the trial of the Horizon Zero Dawn VR game because I didn't want to buy it, but I did want to see how it looked and how it played, and it's fine. And I realized that when I first adopted my cat was when I was playing through Horizon Zero Dawn, and she seemed super interested in that game the whole time that I was playing it. And when I took off my headset, she was just staring at me.
She's like, I heard that shit.
And it occurred to me that what she liked about that game might have been that there's bird sounds in the background the whole time that you're playing the game.
True, yeah.
Like when you're exploring the world, there's like the sound of birds in the background.
Yeah, they got the little sound. You're in a very like lush, jungly area for a lot of it, yeah.
Yeah. And so I think she just heard the birds in the headset while I was playing the game. She was like, you had birds in there.
He's got a bird hat and he's not sharing it.
So that was neat. I will say when you're doing Steam VR, if you want to play a non-VR game in Steam on the big virtual screen, you can, but it's a little wonky sometimes.
Yeah.
Because it's basically just emulating a big ass screen on your VR headset. And so it's basically having to push through an entire Windows desktop to that screen. PSVR does that as well, but it is much faster and more consistent. Like it instantly snaps to screen mode. There's no background or anything. There's no like environment around the screen like there is on Steam. It's just black void around the screen. But it does work. It works consistently. I was playing some Ease on there, some Ease 8, and I wanted to look at a walkthrough, and the PSVR 2 has a pass-through button where you can just click it and it goes to camera mode so that you can see the rest of your room, which is great if you're starting to get dizzy or nauseous or whatever. You just hit that and you can see your room and everything feels normal again.
Yeah.
But I learned that the cameras are not high enough resolution for me to read a guide on my laptop screen. It's just a blurry mess. So I have to take off the helmet anyway. I'm like, well, why am I doing this if I can just see my TV screen?
Right.
I live alone. It's not like I am having to,
you're not inconveniencing anyone. Yeah.
Right. So that is not it's a neat feature, not a useful feature for me.
Yeah.
And then also on my PC with my PSVR 2, I was playing around with some mods for Silent Hill 2 while I was wrapping up the achievements.
Couldn't get
on
enough,
that.
so you had to mod it to play it again.
Yeah. Well, also I had to mod it because the game just runs like garbage on PC.
Isn't that nice? Thanks, Konami.
Apparently it's an Unreal Engine 5 thing. As I was looking this up, it's like Unreal Engine 5 just is a lot
poorly optimized.
Unless people explicitly optimize it, it's going to run like trash on most PCs. And so there's some mods to kind of optimize it and make it run a little bit better. And that was able to get it to close to a consistent 30 frames per second on my 3070 i7 setup.
Just playable. Not ideal, but playable. Plenty playable.
Yeah. And then I also found a mod that brightens the flashlight to make it easier to see around, which was very necessary in PSVR 2 because I couldn't adjust my screen brightness or anything in there. And so that made it playable. Also, I found a mod that replaces the sound effects that the mannequins make so that it is less sexual and sounds more like a squeaky toy, and that makes the game infinitely better.
Yeah.
Every time I am surprised by a mannequin, it just sounds like a dog squeaky toy, and it makes me laugh at them every single time. And it's a much better game that way.
Let's do the news.
Okay.
How about it? Taki Udon, the creator of the Mr. Pie and prominent retro gaming handheld YouTuber, has unveiled an FPGA PS1 console for $149.
Yeah.
This is two very affordable FPGA systems. I think he heard my 2025 wish list and he's like, "I'm gonna don't worry, Justin, I'm gonna do that."
And I've read some conflicting stuff. Somebody was saying that it looks like you can load other FPGA cores in it and play other consoles on it, but
I haven't looked into it enough.
I don't know if that's
that would be very exciting. Yeah, that would be very exciting. Just very happy to see this. Very happy to see. Especially someone that's like in the know, in the hobby, making this, and it's not just another. I mean, obviously, he's teaming up with companies and
Right.
it's getting manufactured. It's like he's
Also,
not
it's
doing
very
it.
adorable looking.
He's not personally building it, but like
Yeah.
someone that's in the know and really kind of in the trenches in this area, doing a lot of critiquing, doing a lot of advising on these devices to be, spearheading projects like these. It's very nice to see.
And it looks like a little tiny PS1.
Oh yeah, it's very cute.
It's
very cute.
Just great. I like the PlayStation Classic that came out a few years ago that Sony put out, that little garbage device.
Yeah.
Looked like a tiny PlayStation, which is cute. And this looks like a tiny PS1, and that's cuter to me. I don't know why. It's like the chibi version of the PlayStation.
Analog Pocket will be adding the Atari Jaguar core, so you can all enjoy that toilet. have a good time with the
There's a couple
Jaguar.
of good Jaguar games.
Okay.
Not enough to justify the price of a Jaguar, but there's a couple of good games on there.
No, I don't know. I shouldn't complain. Adding more functionality to an existing device is a good thing.
Yes.
Amazon has begun canceling long-held pre-orders for games they'll never be able to fulfill, like the canceled 3DS port of Mighty No. 9 and the Switch version of Metroid Prime 4. All you people holding out hope with your pre-orders.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Apparently, Amazon and Nintendo are still having a
they always
pissing
have
contest.
some kind of fight. I don't.
So they are just canceling outright pre-orders of Metroid Prime 4.
Leaks say that the budget for the most recent Call of Duty game was around $700 million. $700 million. Here's what I don't get. This is what blows my mind.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that like they add new stuff to the games and they upgrade engines and stuff.
Yeah.
But there's not $700 million worth of technical advancement between titles. Is it just advertising that all of this is?
I don't get it.
What's eating up this budget?
What
it's not
gets
paying
me
employees.
These games have this kind of budget and are still profitable.
Yeah.
And do the executives who sign off on these budgets, do they ever occasionally look at something like Balatro and think, oh shit, we could have been doing this for $40?
No, they would look at Balatro and go, why aren't you charging for those booster packs?
Right.
Yeah, you just get to get them in the game for free for no money. It doesn't even make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's one of those things where everyone's like, games, you hear it all the time from C-suite executives. Games really should cost more than $70.
Jesus.
Maybe they wouldn't need to cost more than $70 if you didn't spend over $500 million making them.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, I'm not a fucking mathematician here, an economist or whatever. It just seems like a lot for a shooty gun game. That's all I'm saying.
It just feels like there are so many good games still coming out that are on low budgets.
Yeah.
Do they not realize that's an option?
I don't know. I don't know what to think anymore.
And we're going to be hearing in the next year that the budget for GTA 6 will end up being the same or more.
I would bet you it breaks $1 billion.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be shocked to hear it. Columbia Pictures announced films based on Horizon Zero Dawn and Helldivers. We already have a Helldivers movie. It's called Starship Troopers. Paul Verhoeven made it in the early 2000s, and it's really it's a perfect film. So
don't watch any of the sequels.
No, unless you like trash.
The trash that don't even understand the point that the first movie was making.
Yeah, I remember watching one of the sequels, and I was like, when do they get to the biting satire of the military-industrial complex and imperialism? And I'm like, oh, they just thought it was serious the whole time.
Yeah. It's shocking how many people think that Starship Troopers that just took it seriously.
Yeah, I would be kind of shocked because Helldivers, I don't know, like it is also trying to make that same joke, but a lot of fans don't seem to get that.
Right.
And I'm curious to see if the movie tries to make that joke, or if it just goes, fine, we'll just do it earnestly, and we'll just do a fascism, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see.
NVIDIA has announced official Steam Deck support for GeForce Now, will also support Apple Vision Pro and MetaQuest, and is also upgrading the hardware to support 4K streaming. So this is all good news to hear from GeForce Now.
And all those things were kind of unofficially supported if you just ran it through a browser window.
Right. Yeah, you could get there.
But now you can get proper apps for GeForce Now that don't have to also have the overhead of running a browser at the same time.
Also from NVIDIA, the upcoming NVIDIA RTX 5090 will retail for an eye-watering $1,999. If you are the person that is spending $2,000 on a graphics card, please join our Discord so I can ask you a million questions. I really want to know what the fuck you got going on, man. Like, you got like quadruple 8K monitors all running AAA games simultaneously? Like, what are you doing?
They're just only running Silent Hill 2, but they can almost hit 60 frames a second.
Yeah, 1080.
Yeah.
I understand the hardware treadmill that these companies want us to be on, but it hasn't, even when you're playing these big AAA games, so many of them come out of the gate so poorly optimized that, like, really, what are you running on a 5090? I really legitimately want to know. I'm curious.
Yeah, I remember there was a point about 15 years ago when the PS3 and the 360 were still the relevant consoles, and PS3 was still pretty expensive, like $400 or $500 at that point. And you could get a decent, reasonable gaming PC for about $1,100.
Yep.
And it would handle everything that the 360 and the PS3 could. And I remember thinking at that point, like, well, the price of PCs are going to come down where they're probably going to hit equilibrium with consoles. And then Nvidia's like, no, not
Is
anymore.
it like I mean, there's things to consider, right? Like, games made for consoles are tailored to that specific console hardware, so they can optimize it better than they can on just general PC release.
Yeah.
So I get that creates a disparity, but like, middle of the road PC hardware is really fucking good right now.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Maybe I'm the jaded one. Maybe everyone else is like, hell yeah, $2,000 5090. I'm gonna run my games at 16K.
And let's not forget that just 6 years ago, the highest end Nvidia card was like $600-700.
True.
And it's come up this much just because during COVID, during the shortages, and all the scalpers were making money, all these hardware manufacturers were like, oh shit, we could have been making that money.
Yeah, I get I know there are some people out there that they're like, I will spend any amount of money for an incremental gain. They're just those percentage chasers.
Yeah,
that just need to have that perfect. It
Right.
has to be the best. I get that. Like, that ain't me, but like, I understand that some people are like that. But someone out there has a legitimate use case. Are we like folding proteins or something? Like, who's using this?
Right.
The U.S. Department of Defense has designated Tencent as a Chinese military company, which could have far-reaching ramifications in the media and video game landscape. Obviously, we don't.
Let's not forget Tencent was the highest-grossing video game company in the world last year.
Yeah, I don't want to get political on the show, but in coming days, this could be relevant information, a relevant designation that leads to action in some way.
Yeah.
We'll see.
We don't know what this is going to mean, but it could mean something in the video game space. So just be prepared.
Be aware. I don't love Tencent to begin with. I don't know that any of us does. As far as them being a massive media conglomerate.
Right.
But we'll see what this means.
Yeah.
Multiple reports on Reddit say that sealed Switch games are being opened to find a spacer and a googly eye in place of a game.
Yeah, I saw at least 10 or 12 different Reddit posts about this, and then suddenly the news sites started running with it because as soon as there's a thing on Reddit, they have to post a story about it.
They didn't have to research anything. They can just be like, Reddit user blank says blank.
Yeah, but I don't know if you've seen any of the pictures of it.
No.
But it's this little rubber spacer in the shape of a Switch cartridge with a googly eye in the middle of it. And the rubber spacer is black, so that if you're just looking from the bottom of the Switch case, it looks like there is a black Switch card in there.
Right.
And if you shake it, you hear the googly eye move, so it sounds like there's a Switch card moving around.
Yeah.
But then you open it up, and it's just a googly eye inside of a rubber spacer. And the theory is that somebody is steaming these open, replacing them, and then resealing it. But it is happening before it even hits the retail level.
Weird.
So it is somewhere in distribution or in manufacturing. Somebody is doing this. Or it is a bunch of people who bought these spacers and googly eyes
collectively agreed to be like, let's be weird on Reddit. Yeah. Both oddly equally probable.
Yeah, and both interesting enough to talk about. So
Lenovo Legion Go S announced for $499 with native SteamOS support. Also, Valve will make SteamOS available in beta for anyone who wants to install it on any device. These are both good moves. I like seeing this. This is more diversity. This is more competition. This is non-Windows handhelds being made, which I also like. I don't love. And
the new Legion Go is also going to have a Windows version, which I think is $100 more.
Yeah, and so the more options are more gooderer.
It's more gooderist.
Nintendo Force and hand-drawn game guides have announced an officially licensed Mega Man 1 game guide that's coming out. I think it's on Kickstarter now.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
I was on the Patreon for a couple of hand-drawn game guides before they got shut down by Nintendo. Really cool stuff. I want to buy it because I want to support this and I want to see more of this, but I don't really care to have a Mega Man 1 guide. It's kind of like my least favorite Mega Man.
It is it is the early black sheep entry.
My hope is that this leads to a Mega Man 2, 3, 4 guide,
right?
Which would be really cool.
If they could do an omnibus of all of the 8-bit Mega Man games,
all
I'd buy that
hand-drawn guide style.
Oh yeah,
awesome. A new browser-based Doom mod places the game inside an art gallery where you sip wine while observing exhibits. It's cute.
The headline that somebody had posted in our chat for this was a new gentrified Doom clone.
I like that. Doom guy in it has little glasses, so he looks fancy. Put little glasses
sophisticated.
On. Yeah. And finally, Nintendo and Lego have announced a Lego Game Boy to release this October. I'm excited at the idea. I don't think I'll be excited at the price. Lego inflation is a real deal.
Yeah, it's probably going to be $300. That's my guess.
If it's regular Game Boy sized, I could see it. I think someone in the chat was saying $150 or less. Even that seems high. If it was like $50, instant buy for me. If it's over $100, I don't know if I need a Lego Game Boy that bad.
If it's $50, it'll be the size of a keychain.
Yeah. Which brings us to our topic at hand, which is Namco. For synopsis, Saturn put the entire Scott Pilgrim quote. Hey, you know Pac-Man? Well, Pac-Man was originally called Puck-Man. I'm not going to read the whole thing. First
I did leave out the response to that first line where he says, "Hey, you know Pac-Man?" And she says, "I know of him."
Yeah.
Which I almost included that because that's my favorite part of that.
I know of him. As far as initial thoughts, Namco is one of those companies that really didn't matter to me until they were Bandai Namco.
That's bizarre to me.
Yeah,
that's when I started losing interest in Namco.
No, Namco was not. I was not a Pac-Man fan. I was not around for the golden age of the arcades. I missed a lot of their '90s stuff. They just kind of went past me.
That's so weird.
When they became Bandai Namco is when what was that, early aughts? I mean, I know we'll talk about it at some point.
It was 2006.
Yeah, so that was 11th grade for me. So yeah, you feel old yet?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, like I knew of Pac-Man. I had played some Pac-Man. I was like, cool, Pac-Man, Namco, yeah, all right. But that was just kind of it. I didn't think much about Golden Age era arcade companies or characters very much. Video game very much started with NES era and later stuff for me.
By 2006, Namco is very much the Soul Calibur people.
And that's what they have been in my life.
Yeah. But yeah, so like I grew up with Pac-Man. Like we had an Atari 2600 hooked up when I was a kid, pretty much all the time. Miss Pac-Man was a regular. That was probably the most common game that was left in the Atari. If nobody was playing anything else specifically. But I didn't really start to realize how influential Namco was as a company until they started to release those Namco Museum collections in the late 90s. And that's when I started looking into the rest of their games. And that's also incidentally when I started playing around with MAME a lot. And so getting to go back and experience a lot of Namco's heyday through MAME while simultaneously seeing, the release of things like Tekken and Klonoa and whatnot was it was a neat little dichotomy.
Yeah. Like a lot of their, like I saw the Namco arcades and I remember being like, those are neat. And it's neat that they all line up together on a shelf.
Yeah.
But that was it,
I still, to this day, regret that I didn't get all the Namco museums on PS1 because each of them had one of the letters of Namco on it, so they would all spell out Namco if you had all 5 of them.
Yeah,
and I'm still upset that I couldn't get them all. I have volumes 1 and 3, and 2, 4, and 5 are all like $250, $300 these days. So
they really just kind of missed me before the merger, and I guess really like post arcade stuff, pre Bandai Namco merger. Like Tekken was a thing there, but I didn't do that either.
Katamari
I played Katamari. Well, no, maybe I don't remember. Honestly, I don't know. I could have. I might have. Who knows? Namco, biographical information, founded June 1st, 1955 in Tokyo, Japan. It was founded by Masaya Nakamura. It dissolved March 31st, 2006. Saturn, tell us about the early days and the founding of Namco.
So, Namco was originally founded as Nakamura Manufacturing by Masaya Nakamura in June of 1955. And he was born in 1925. He graduated from Yokohama Institute of Technology back in 48, which is way before video games.
Yeah, I did look into him. He had a degree in shipbuilding, which is a thing, I guess.
Yeah, it is.
I feel like there's a fancier name for that. There's,
I used to do tech support for a shipbuilding company, and no, they just referred to themselves as shipbuilders.
Oh, well, so down to earth the shipbuilding industry seems to be. World War II caused him to change careers. I don't know if you know this or not, but World War II was it was tough on Japan.
A little bit, yeah.
There's a lot of career changes going on, and he worked at his father's. I love this. He worked at his father's shotgun repair business before founding Namco.
Yeah, I would think that World War II would have been when shipbuilding was at its peak in Japan.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't read into exactly
military
what caused
shipbuilding is really the money right now in shipbuilding.
I think what the way I read it was he was like, I don't want to fucking do that. That's the dangerous works. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Fair.
I didn't read into his exact reasoning why. I'm not sure if we even super know. But just the idea of him working at his father's shotgun repair business is the most Texan thing I've ever heard.
It does sound very hillbilly.
So Nakamura, Texan at heart. I'll give you that one. Quit building boats to go work at your daddy's shotgun repair shop. Anyway, go ahead, please.
So the company started by installing 2 mechanical rocking horse rides on a department store rooftop, which is the most common video game company origin story.
Yeah, I know that it was probably like a finished roof that you were allowed to go on, but it sounds like they just put 2 random child's amusements on the roof of a building, and we're like, I don't know.
Hey, Billy, get up there. I got to go fix this shotgun. You go up on the roof and play with the horsey.
Yeah, you take little Timmy up there and ride them horses on the roof.
Well, I'll fix this 12 gauge.
Hey, Pa, can we put a couple of them there horses up on the roof? Yep.
I reckon we can.
Anyway, I'm sorry.
So, company did see some early success with amusement machines at small department stores across Tokyo, and they ultimately found themselves as one of the premier Japanese amusement device companies alongside Taito and the 2 companies that would go on to become Sega. And in a move to expand the business, Nakamura signed an exclusive deal with Disney to produce rides with Disney characters, which was also something that Nintendo did early on to make some money. And that they also opened their own production plants to compete with Taito and Sega, who were already producing their own equipment. Prior to this, Taito was either repairing other companies' equipment or outsourcing their production.
Yeah.
And
so kind of playing second fiddle to these bigger companies.
Right. And their early self-developed electromechanical successes included an Ultraman-based shooting gallery, as well as a submarine-themed game called Torpedo Launcher that would later be sold by Sega as Periscope. And I was looking into this Torpedo Launcher Periscope thing.
Yeah.
Looks like the only copyright is held by Sega, but there's evidence that Namco produced it before Sega, and there is some controversy over whether or not Sega just straight up stole it from Namco.
Yeah. Because Periscope was pretty foundational in early Sega, wasn't it? Like, it was a big deal.
It was a huge thing for Sega.
Yeah.
And there is some discussion as to whether or not it was just stolen by Sega, or if it was just a coincidental, they both came up with a similar idea around the same time.
Yeah.
But by 71, Namco had grown to 10 employees, or what would become Namco had grown to 10 employees, and Nakamura began using the name Namco on several of their machines. And they would eventually fully rebrand to Namco by 77.
Yeah, yeah. I was looking at their original logo, and it's just like a little derpy cartoon horse.
Yeah.
Which I love.
Oh yeah. I wish they still used it.
I can't tell if it's got its tongue dangling out of its mouth or if its mouth is open.
Right.
But I like to imagine it's a tongue dangle. It just makes it look extra super derpy.
It does make it extra derpy and charming.
So I do enjoy their old logo. After this is their kind of or some early acquisition activity.
Yeah, so this is when you get into their video gaming stuff. So, but before we get to that, I do want to sidetrack slightly to talk about Atari Japan.
Yes.
So, in 73, Atari had formed their Japanese division, Atari Japan, and within a year, poor sales led to the president of Atari Japan just abandoning his job, just stopped showing up.
Silent
no longer
quitting
there,
in the
right?
70s. It was a thing.
So the person who was brought on to replace him was Hideyuki Nakajima, who would go on to run Atari Japan. And rather than trying to fix this collapsing Japanese division, Atari just immediately started looking for a buyer. They were just like, somebody buy our Japanese division. We no longer want this.
Well, there's someone here to broker this deal. Please purchase it.
Yeah.
Because they're going to leave too.
Right. And so Sega and Taito both shot down the idea of buying Atari Japan. They wanted nothing to do with it at this point.
Yeah.
And so Nakamura came in and was like, you know what? I will buy it for $1 million.
Mm-hmm.
And then they were like, great. And then he, as soon as like they were about to sign the deal, he was like, never mind. I will not buy it for $1 million. I will give you $550,000 up front.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, but we want another $250,000 a year for the next 3 years. Like,
Okay.
Sure, whatever. So they come to a deal. But I just thought it was funny that like he comes to them with this one price, and as they're signing, he's like, just kidding.
Never mind.
But they made their money in the end. So it was fine. But so this was Namco's introduction to the video game market. Prior to this, they didn't make video games. They bought Atari Japan, and now suddenly they're making video games in 74. And this is, early on.
Right. Yeah.
2 years post-Pong.
Real early.
Oh, yeah. And the person who was at this time the head of Atari Japan, Hideyuki Nakajima, he stayed on at Namco to oversee the what was Atari Japan Namco Arcade division.
Yeah.
And initially, Namco just distributed Atari's games with some mild successes. But then once Space Invaders became a thing, once Taito, completely changed the market with Space Invaders, Namco realized they need to start developing arcade games. They need to make their own video games in-house. And their first arcade game was released in 78, and it was called GB. And it's got a little cute bee on the cover art. And it was just basically a take on Breakout. It was designed by Toru Iwatani, who would later go on to make Pac-Man. The game underperformed, but still kind of established Namco as somebody that arcade owners could buy games from. Put their foot in the door. And their first big hit was in 79 with Galaxian.
I've heard of this.
Yes. It was one of the first games with RGB graphics and with tile maps and with score bonuses. We talked about it on our Galaga episode back in episode 457.
We did. That's when I heard of this.
It was the first time you ever heard of Galaxian.
Never heard of Galaga before then.
So around this time, Namco formed an American office, which was also headed by Hideyuki Nakajima. So he was heading their Japanese arcade division and their American division. And the entire purpose of the American office was to manufacture and distribute their electromechanical games in the West, not their arcade games. They didn't have the equipment to make the arcade games in the West. So they signed deals with Bally Midway to produce Galaxian, and they also signed deals with Atari and others just to get their games out in the West.
Right. Distribution.
But specifically, the deal with Bally Midway led to many Namco games being distributed by Midway outside of Japan. It was a very close partnership between Midway and...
We did a Midway episode, didn't we? Did we do that?
I don't think we've done Midway.
Not?
We did Williams, who bought Midway at some point.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of. That's why it's familiar.
Yeah. So they, had some early successes, but they wanted to diversify. Specifically, Toru Iwatani wanted to make a game that wasn't just shooting things, because that's basically what everything was post Space Invaders for a little while.
That notion offends me.
I'm a big fan of games that are not shooting things, so I'm with him.
How dare you, Saturn? I can't believe this betrayal.
So he wanted to make his non-shooting game, and he also wanted a game that could be enjoyed, quote, even by women.
Oh boy! All right, it was
Yeah.
the '80s, huh? All right then,
Yeah.
party on.
So this became Puckman,
Uh-huh.
which became Pac-Man, and we
he was
did a
originally
whole.
known as Puckman. That is-
I know of him. We did a whole episode about this too. Episode 81, we did Pac-Man. We also did episode 339 on Miss Pac-Man and episode 406 on Pac-Man spinoffs. We've been here before.
This is the editor's speech bubble in this comic book.
Right?
Tell you what to go read.
Yeah. And so in 84, Namco formed a division called Namcot to develop and publish games for home video game consoles and computers. I don't know why they couldn't just call it Namco. That would have made more sense, but they didn't.
Was there
They
ever
call it
any
Namcot.
explanation about what the T was for?
No. Never.
They just slapped it on there?
To what I can find, there was never any explanation why it was called Namcot.
How bizarre.
Quick side story. I remember when I was playing around with emulators in the 90s, some of my friends were over after school. We were in high school.
Mm-hmm.
I was playing some NES or Super NES Namco game, and I saw the Namcot logo, and I said out loud, "Why does it call it Namcot?" And my friend misheard me and thought I said, "Why does it call it Mancock?" And so from that point forward, anytime we played Soul Calibur and the Namco logo was on screen, he would shout out Mancock in the same voice that it said Namco on the game.
Beautiful.
I don't know why I felt the need to share that story, but I did.
The stories of our youth.
I felt that was important. Anyway, so in 85, Warner Communications, who then owned Atari back here in the States, were looking to get rid of Atari because it was losing them money.
Yeah. Right.
And they had already sold Atari's video game and computer business to Commodore founder Jack Tramiel, who is mostly making it into a computer company at that point.
Yeah.
But they wanted to get rid of Atari's arcade business, Atari games. And Nakajima, the previous Atari Japan guy who was now heading Namco US, he insisted that they buy Atari games from Warner. And eventually Nakamura agreed to buying a 60% stake of Atari games, with Warner owning the other 40%.
Yeah.
And this lasted for like a year or two before Nakamura got increasingly upset at, one, Atari games competing with Namco, and two, having to coordinate with Warner for all management decisions.
Yeah.
So he sold off a third of their stake to Nakajima himself and other employees of Atari games. And this partial ownership of Atari games led to Atari games publishing many of Namco's home games in the West under the Tengen brand. That's why you see a lot of these Namco games published by Tengen in the U.S.
Yeah, Miss Pac-Man NES, famously Tengen cartridge.
Also Pac-Man, also Tetris, also several of Atari games releases were done by Tengen.
I was looking through, I forgot about this because I was looking through your Golden Age success list of games with Galaga, Pole Position, Dig Dug, Xevious, Mappy, Tower of Draga. I forgot about Pole Position, and I always forget about Pole Position because Pole Position would be my first Namco game. Because when I was in kindergarten, my grandmother owned a laundromat, and after I got out of kindergarten, I would go to the laundromat to be babysat by her.
Yeah.
And they had arcade games there, and they changed out periodically. But two things always stayed. There was this like rock and roll pinball machine. With three things. There was a Flintstones themed egg machine. It wasn't a game, but it had a Dino the dinosaur in the middle on a pole, and you put a quarter in, and Dino would spin, and it would say yabba dabba doo, and an egg would come out with like a spider ring or some shit in it.
Nice.
And then there was a sit-down pole position machine.
Nice.
And I played pole position obsessively, and I got really good at it for a kindergartner.
Nice.
And I played a ton of it. And I remember it was one of the arcade games I played the most because I could play it for a long time on a quarter. Now, granted, she was just giving me the quarters.
Right.
Because she runs the laundromat, but I would have to go ask for less quarters if I played pole position.
Nice.
So I forget about that. I did play an ungodly amount of pole position in a big sit-down cab when I was in kindergarten in 1994.
The pizza place closest to my house had a stand-up pole position machine.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, and I remember being so impressed by the fact that it would talk at you.
Yeah.
That was just like, it was a garbage voice, but for mid to late 80s whenever I first played it. I was just like, oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, and it was by the egg machine. So I'd play
Right.
pole position until I crash, and I'd spend the rest of my quarters on spider rings. And my favorite were these monster finger puppets, and there's a variety of them. So I collected these monster finger puppets, and I had them in a little pile at home.
You know, it occurs to me that your grandmother giving you the quarters so that you could buy things out of her egg machine meant that she was basically just giving you all those toys.
Yeah, but
and losing out on all the money she could have made on them.
right. But I don't know if you know this.
The laundromats just print money.
No, those little monster finger puppets don't cost a lot.
What?
She buys them in bulk, I know, and puts them in the eggs. I feel like I remember giving her the eggs back to reuse too. They were like they weren't like capsule. When I say eggs, a lot of capsule machines are little capsules. They were like Easter
little plastic
eggs,
break
like
open
yeah,
ones.
like little plastic Easter eggs.
Nice.
Yeah,
We my mom was the PTA president for a little while, and so she learned what store they buy those things in bulk at because they used to give them away to the kids at PTA events.
yeah.
And so we would constantly have a giant box of those little monster finger puppets and spider rings and shit like
Man.
that.
I was way into monster finger puppets when I was 5. Let me tell you, I was hardcore into that shit. Let's transition to the 90s. Tell me about 90s
Okay.
Namco.
So, just as the home market in general, Namco did have some success with their initial batch of home releases. You had Famicom ports of Galaxian, Pac-Man, Xevious, Mappy.
Yeah.
Xevious specifically would sell over 1.5 million units on Famicom, and I saw several sources citing it as the first killer app on the Famicom.
I don't even like Xevious, and I own it on NES.
Weird.
I don't know. I know. It just like appeared one day.
Yeah, Xevious has never been one that clicked with me. Like, I remember seeing it in
Yeah,
the
I don't like
arcades
it.
and thinking it looked amazing, and then as soon as I'd play it, I'd be like, oh, never mind.
You know what turned me off is the 2-layer that there's the ground shooting and air shooting.
See, I like the concept of that, but the execution just felt a little too confusing for me.
I'm too stupid for it. My brain's like, I'm shooting and it's not dying. I can't fucking like reconcile why it's not working. So it is, yeah, I'm too dumb for it. That's what I've decided.
So Xevious is a huge success. Pac-Man obviously huge success as well on Famicom.
Yeah.
And so because of these early massive successes, Namco was given a preferential contract with Nintendo for publishing games on the Famicom and the NES.
Mhm.
Well, not on the NES. They didn't do anything in the West.
Yeah.
Just the Famicom. But they were given preferential treatment where they got a sweetheart deal where they got more of the profit, more of the control. They didn't have to go through quite as many of Nintendo's hoops, and there weren't even that many hoops in Japan for Famicom publishing. And so for most of the 80s, Namco just published a bunch of ports of Namco's arcade games. There were a handful of console exclusives, but it was mostly just ports.
Mhm.
But then when it was time to renew their contract and to get a license to publish games on Super Famicom, Hiroshi Yamauchi said he would no longer give any developer preferential treatment. So Namco had to get in line with everybody else and get the exact same contract everybody wanted, or that everybody else had.
What a hard ass.
And Nakamura was not okay with this. He was pissed.
Yeah.
And so he told his console development team, shift all development to PC Engine Mega Drive. Make those our preferred platforms. We'll still put things on
That's
Nintendo
why
because
no
we want
one
money.
remembers Nintendo today.
Exactly. But he wanted all of the focus on PC Engine and Mega Drive.
Yeah.
And this was also at the same time that the partially owned Atari games was in the middle of a bunch of lawsuits with Nintendo as well. So that probably was not helping their negotiations with Nintendo.
Yeah.
And so even though Namco was heavily competing with Sega in arcades, they were supporting the Genesis heavily. They were supporting the PC Engine TurboGrafx heavily. And Namco actually started development on their own 16-bit home console to compete with these other platforms as well, because they wanted full control. But they did cancel it because of how saturated the market was.
Yeah, not a good time for that.
Right.
Which, oddly enough, they saw it when so many other companies did not see it.
Yeah. Who knew that 3DO was not going to be the top of the market?
I banked on that Saturn.
Right. In 1990, Time Warner decided they would buy out the rest of Namco's stake in Atari games. And this left Namco without a Western division whatsoever to publish games in the West. So they formed Namco Home Tech to publish games in North America and Europe. And Namco's primary arcade business began looking at bigger projects, larger scale cabinets with more elaborate designs, and a full theme park called Wonder Eggs.
Excuse me?
Apparently, that's the name of a theme park in Japan.
Did eggs feature prominently in Namco?
I don't know. I can't find any reason why it was called Wonder Eggs. Plural. Eggs, plural.
Maybe they published that Flintstones Dino the Dinosaur Machine, and that's what they were referencing.
Right. So, Wonder Eggs was meant to be a Disneyland-like theme park built around Namco's amusement machines, which I had never heard of before I was looking into it at this. And the opening of the park boosted Namco's revenue by 34% in 92.
Oh, shit.
So this is clearly a successful thing that I've never heard of and can find very little information on. But it was apparently a little miniature theme park that Namco opened up in 92. And I think they even said that they produced more than one Wonder Eggs location.
That's insane.
But I think they were more arcade than they were full amusement park, that they just called them theme
like
parks.
Looking at it, it looks more it looks like a carnival is what I would view this as. Like there are some small rides.
Right.
There's like a big carousel, but there's a lot of just like what looks like buildings with probably smaller amusements in them.
Yeah.
And it's kind of an indoor-outdoor thing.
Yeah.
It's
like,
cool.
I can see that it is themed.
And they have what appears to be a Tower of Druaga, which is
neat.
I want to see what's in that.
Right.
But it's just like a lot of little buildings and stuff. And there is a big dragon on top of the Tower of Druaga, which I really want to know what's in there. But
I think
it's like bumper cars and little floaty rides, and it looks like some shows and a little train. Like it doesn't look like full, like
not full Disneyland.
Yeah, when you say theme park, I think a lot of people think like Disney World, Disneyland, Six Flags, like size theme parks. It's not. This looks a lot smaller scale, but still really cool.
But I think we can agree that Wonder Eggs is still a stupid name.
Intensely stupid. Yeah, no, of course it is. It's ridiculous. I wish companies did stupid, weird shit like this still, you know? I'm like, they're like, I don't know. I don't fucking know, man.
Right.
Some of these attractions look really interesting, but a lot of them, they seem very video game based.
Yeah. So this is also when Namco started aggressively pursuing new tech. In 93, they debuted their System 22 arcade board, which supported real-time polygonal models. In 93, the debut title for this was Ridge Racer.
Yep.
Which
you didn't say it right.
I'm sorry, Ridge Racer.
Thank
you. Remember that?
No, I didn't play it till the 3DS. Continue.
So the original Ridge Racer cabinet featured a full-scale replica convertible for its arcade cabinet, which
beautiful,
is ridiculous,
so space
as well.
efficient,
right?
So fit in every arcade.
Right. And the following year, they released Tekken, utilizing the same System 22 arcade board, mostly as a direct response to Sega's Virtua Fighter.
And I would say they won that particular war. Tekken
eventually, yeah. Ultimately, I would say they did.
It took a minute, but then, yeah.
But yeah, I would say they did. And then we get into their partnership with PlayStation.
Yes.
Which is really an important part of Namco's history, because following Nintendo and Sony's falling out, Sony had begun developing the PlayStation, which I think everybody knows at this point.
Yeah, I'm aware of it. Yeah. It's like Sony's Xbox.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know about this thing.
But they didn't have much of a game development presence. Sony's in-house games were things like Hook and Sewer Shark. So they started
was that one NES game? Solstice? Did they make Solstice?
Solstice was also Sony,
Yeah, there you go.
So around this time, they started aggressively courting third-party publishers and also trying to buy up some, particularly in Europe.
Like you do.
And since Namco was already upset with Nintendo, and they were getting annoyed with Sega because of the licensing model for the Saturn and the 32X, and also because Daytona USA and Virtua Fighter were direct competitors to Ridge Racer and Tekken.
Yeah.
Namco was very amenable to the idea of teaming up with Sony on this. So they decided they would 100% back Sony on this. And similarly, Sony started backing Namco and producing hardware specifically for Namco's arcade machines. So the PlayStation released with a near arcade perfect port of Ridge Racer,
which is very impressive. It's an impressive game, especially for a launch title.
Oh yeah. So this was in December '94. The game sold 100,000 units on day one, and was one of the most popular games on the system. And 3 months later, they followed it up with a near perfect port of Tekken, which would be the first game to break 1 million sales on the PlayStation. And this was a stark contrast to the poorly received port of Virtua Fighter that Sega released on their own hardware a few months earlier.
Oh, yeah.
Virtua Fighter 2, excellent port on this album.
Yeah, Virtua Fighter 1, what the fuck happened?
Yeah, they ended up having to re-release it as Virtua Fighter Remix just to fucking fix it.
They so badly misunderstood the assignment.
Yeah, on their own hardware.
Yeah.
So, right next to it was a near perfect port of Tekken, which I think is part of the reason why Tekken did overtake Virtua Fighter in the arcades, was because of how good the home port was.
Yeah. Well, I mean, especially with fighting games, like you go to the arcade, if you put a quarter into a fighting game you don't know how to play,
right,
you just lost a quarter real fast. But if you put it in a game you play at home, you got a chance.
You had a chance to
you
practice.
could play for a minute. Yeah.
Right. Around this time, Namco finally dropped the T from Namcot and went back to just Namco for their home games. This was in mid-95, shortly after the release of Tekken on PlayStation in Japan. And Sony started using the slogan PlayStation powered by Namco to bring attention to all these high-quality ports on the system. This is PlayStation realized Namco was basically propping up their system.
Yeah, and I don't want to say single-handedly because there's a lot of factors at play, but very largely responsible for a lot of the PlayStation's early success.
Yeah. I don't think anybody would find fault in the idea that Namco propped up the PlayStation early on.
Yeah.
And Namco had signed on with the 3DO and Saturn, but they were definitely focused on PlayStation.
Yeah.
They only ever released. They never released a Saturn game under the license. They only ever released one game on the 3DO, which was a Japanese exclusive that nobody has heard of or played. But despite how close they were with Sony during this time and how influential they were on the PlayStation, they eventually did start branching out. They eventually signed on with the Nintendo 64. They only ever put 3 games on the system. And of course they signed on with the Dreamcast as well. And they put 4 whole games on the Dreamcast, notably Soul Calibur though, which was
right. Yeah, pretty big release.
Yeah,
pretty big release.
Yeah, still barely any games on the Dreamcast, but the Dreamcast also barely lasted any time.
It died fast.
But then unfortunately we have to look at a steep decline.
Yeah, you don't say. So not in the late 90s in Japan. Surely not.
Right. So there was the Japanese recession in 98. Hit the arcade industry real hard. Namco's sales apparently dipped by 25% in 98.
That just undid everything that their theme park was bringing in.
They undid Wonder Eggs.
They should. I assume that's how it was reported in the press. The Namco suffering reverse Wonder Eggs.
The arcade operating division of the company filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in 98.
Yep.
Which, that's rough. That's like right in Tekken 3 era too. In 99, the sales dropped another 55%. Due mostly to flagging console sales and increased development costs. Over the next few years, the company continued to hemorrhage billions of yen every year.
Yeah.
In an effort to increase sales, Namco put effort into porting all of their games to as many consoles as possible. They started heavily supporting the GameCube and the Xbox.
I do remember GameCube support. I had a GameCube at the time, and I do remember seeing the Namco logo a lot.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, like, man, there's a lot of Namco shit here.
Soul Calibur 2 was on everything. Things like Dead to Rights and pretty much all their games.
I wonder how much of their business was propped up exclusively by Soul Calibur 2.
I imagine that was a lot of their profit that year.
It was like Soul Calibur 2 was a big deal when it came out.
Yeah.
And it was fully multi-platform. Everyone played it. Everyone liked it.
Yeah.
Just kind of crazy. Also, one of the best single-player modes in a fighting game.
Yes. Yeah. The story mode on there.
Yeah, story mode is a blast on Soul Calibur 2.
Absolutely. So They also, in '02, had teamed up with Sega and Nintendo to develop the Triforce arcade board, which was very similar to the GameCube and was even used for a couple of games, I think. Not many games, but a couple.
Yeah, they didn't they do? Is this the one they did a arcade Mario
Arcade
Kart
GP?
on?
Yep.
Yeah.
And
Which,
also F-Zero AX uses that board.
Yes. Racing stuff.
Yep. And despite decreasing sales and increasing debt, there were some successful new games in this era. Particularly, Taiko no Tatsujin was a surprise hit in arcades. Only in Japan because it didn't hit the U.S. for many years after this.
Yeah.
And Katamari Damacy, which greatly exceeded sales expectations on PS2. And also was a budget release. It came out at $20.
I forgot about that. How cheap it was when it came out.
And if they had just sold it for $30, maybe that could have propped up their entire year.
Yeah. Editor's note: we also did an episode on Katamari Damacy. So
we did. Done a Katamari Damacy episode. Nakamura had stepped down as company president amid financial struggles in '04. And alongside the new president, who was Kyushiro Takagi, the company began looking for partners to merge with in order to write their balance sheets.
Yeah.
And
at this point, I mean, they're at like 6 years of struggling.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they were just bleeding money.
Yeah.
And the first offer was to merge with Square and Enix to form a new company out of the three of them. But the offer was rejected, mostly because Square and Enix both felt that they weren't a very good fit with the whole arcade business of Namco and all that.
Sure.
And then Namco offered to merge with Sega, but Sega broke off talks in order to merge with Sammy instead, because this is the era when all Japanese companies are having to merge out of tremendous losses.
Right.
And eventually in 2005, Namco began merger talks with Tamagotchi magnate Bandai.
I think you mean Palladium magnate.
Oh, I'm sorry. Palladium magnate Bandai.
Yeah.
And so, despite some
also
concerns,
Digimon magnate. We have
also
to
Wonder
just put
Swan
it out there.
magnate.
Wonder Swan magnate.
Yeah.
Magnate of many successful things that we all love here equally. Everyone loves them. Don't listen to Saturn. Don't listen to what he says.
Producer of Forgotten Electronics Bandai.
How dare you? There's new Digimon coming in a couple months. How could you do this to me?
And despite some concerns about the corporate attitude at Bandai and the emphasis on marketing over quality, Namco's financial desperation eventually just led to them going ahead and merging in 2006, resulting in the formation of Bandai Namco Holdings and their new video game division, Namco Bandai Games.
To be fair, teaming up with the Tamagotchi company in 2005 rings a little differently than teaming up with the Tamagotchi company in 1998.
Right, exactly.
So just for, to be fair.
And granted, Bandai also had been around for like 1,000 years at this point.
Oh, yeah.
And their Bandai
was founded in 1950.
Yeah, and their tendrils outside of the video game industry are massive. Bandai is a huge company. Their video game influence has been kind of meh, but their actual industry influence in Japan is enormous.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
And of course, 5 years later, they published Dark Souls in Western territories with only the Bandai logo and no Namco logo on the box. And it was still the first game that Justin thought of when we were discussing making a Namco episode. Despite the fact there's no Namco logo anywhere on the box, when I said, "Hey, let's do a Namco episode," Justin said,
"Not
the Dark Souls
sandbag me
people."
at the end of the show, could you? You couldn't just let it ride."
I had to make note of the fact that, one, it was way after the merger, and two, it had no Namco logo on the box. And still, when I said, "Hey, let's do a Namco episode," you were like, "Oh yeah, the Dark Souls people."
Bandai Namco to me is Bandai and then also Namco. It's like Sonic and his shitty friend Tails,
But
like
Dark Souls specifically just said Bandai on the box. It didn't even say Bandai.
Look, I'm not
Namco.
reading the fucking box. I just know it was Bandai Namco. It was them. It was Bamco. It was those people.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I feel like part of it's an age thing. I am a little younger. Not like insanely younger, but just enough that I think I missed a lot of their arcade stuff. Never really clicked with Tekken. And they just, for me, Bandai Namco has been more influential to me than Namco by themselves really was as far as formative game companies.
Yeah, They really fell off for me once they merged. Because
And I didn't do the PS1. I didn't own a PS1 until the revision PS1, the little baby one.
Oh yeah.
So I'm even that era of their story. I kind of missed out on. Like I played Galaga. You know, I like that. I hate Dig Dug. I'm gonna put that out there.
How dare you?
I think Dig Dug sucks and is bad.
You're a bad person.
Fucking hate Dig
Dug. Just
there's no shooting at all. I don't shoot
you
anyone.
Inflate things.
Stupid.
Now just looking through their list, because I put a list in here of some of their more prominent things. There's just a ton of these games that were huge for me.
Sure.
Even looking past all their golden age stuff.
Yeah.
When you get to stuff like Tales of Fantasia and Time Crisis and Klonoa and Mr. Driller, it's just a bunch of stuff that I played a ton of.
Bot and Kaito.
Yeah, I really fell off of Namco around the time they merged with Bandai, just because they seem to pivot pretty hard to games that I didn't care about.
Yeah. And really awesome Digimon releases in the 2020s.
Yeah, that doesn't matter at all to me.
Although that's still all under the band, like Namco's
all Bandai.
That's all under the Bandai side of things. I just
Yeah.
can't resist an opportunity to mention it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's sad that it seems like when it felt like they were really hitting their third stride.
Yeah.
So they had that first stride of the arcade releases, and then really teaming up with the PlayStation was kind of this big second wind. And then right when they were hitting their third stride stuff, they're really well known for is when they were hemorrhaging the most cash.
Yeah.
Which is just real sad. But, Japan was in a kind of a rough financial state in the late 90s, and it just hit them particularly hard. Maybe they didn't open enough Wonder Eggs. I don't know. But yeah, it was tough.
And in that early to mid 2000s era, we really saw a hard shift towards Western development on consoles, and a lot of that was just because of how much the Japanese industry was hurting, and they couldn't keep up with development costs that the Western companies were easily paying. And so you saw all these prominent companies just having to merge with each other just because they couldn't manage to stay afloat otherwise.
I'd also read that in 2021 is when Namco USA was finally fully absorbed into Bandai Namco's big North American thing.
It's they took their time.
Yeah, that's also when they exited arcade.
Oh, right,
entirely in the US.
Finally closed their arcade version. Yeah,
forget it.
Makes sense.
And I like that their properties get to live on with a company that, I mean, is Bandai the greatest company ever? No. But they get to live on with a company that's not just a giant holdings company. You know what I mean?
Like Konami,
like Konami, or sometimes I worry about Sega being under Sammy.
Yeah.
I don't worry so much about Bandai Namco caring about Namco's legacy.
Yeah.
As much, would I prefer it if everyone was independent and competing with each other? And do I think that makes a better marketplace? Yes, I do. But if you had to pick companies to get absorbed into,
yeah, I
mean, there's in the long run, I think there are worse ones than Bandai. But I can see their reservations at the time for sure. Totally.
I do hope that they continue to pursue all these Namco museum style collections, because they have been, which is great.
Yeah, and we got a really good one on Switch. We did an episode on it.
Yeah, like 8 years ago.
Yeah. Oh god.
And they also did that archives collection on all three platforms. That was the NES Namco games.
Yeah.
But I would like to see them do a Namco museum of their PS1 era stuff.
Oh, totally.
There is a lot of huge hits in that era that many of them haven't been re-released since then.
I'm kind of shocked that Sony isn't clamoring for that.
Right?
That
we saw a few of them on the PlayStation Classic.
Sure.
But I feel like there's a lot of games from that. I would love to see a collection of the Time Crisis and Point Blank games.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know how they'll do it without a light gun, but I would like to see
I don't know either. You know what fucking is annoying? The Switch has had IR since day one.
Yep.
We could have done light gun on Switch.
Yep.
You could have put my Joy-Con in a little
Even if we had just done motion control, we could have done.
It wouldn't have been ideal, but it would have been okay. Would have been okay, I think. I don't know. Namco's still around. They're still seeming to reproduce and celebrate a lot of their legacy, which is nice.
We just got that Pac-Man World remaster. Yep. We got that Klonoa collection. So they're still bringing in some stuff too. Batten Kaitos just got a remaster.
It did. So they're around. They made Dark Souls.
No, they didn't.
What?
I believe the second thing you mentioned after Dark Souls was Digimon. Which I was like, that's also not Namco.
It's Bandai Namco. Same company. They're absorbed. So somewhere out there, there's like a 15-year-old that only knows Pac-Man from Smash and only knows Namco from Dark Souls. Like that person exists. I just want you to know that they're out there, Saturn. They exist. They were born in 2010, by the way, to be 15 years old. So
Namco, prominent publisher of Elden Ring. Namco Museum 2050, featuring Dark Souls 2 and Elden Ring.
You know what else Bandai didn't make?
This episode,
or our Patreon at patreon.com/retrowarriors, where you can find uncut versions of this show where Guy isn't here. I don't know why that's the thing I chose to advertise, but that's what sprung to mind. So
sometimes Guy is here.
Yes, thank you. This time he was not. He said he had quote unquote things to do, whatever that fucking means. I don't know. Can't be specific.
He's still working on his Justin Voodoo doll.
I think maybe he just had a really massive BM.
Oh yeah.
And so he was like, I can't. It's going to take the whole show. I can't be there.
He needed somebody to talk to him while he was doing it.
Right.
Throwback to our pre-show.
You also, you can get Talking Wizards and Read Along and other stuff. We would love to have your support at our Patreon. We don't run ads on anything. Anything I can turn ads off on, I try to.
Yeah.
I know that, unfortunately, I stream on Twitch, and I think you'll see an ad, but that's Twitch doing that. That's not me. I didn't click that button. Although I did fuck up. So you can upload custom emojis to Twitch. And it's like, I don't really understand Twitch, but it's like, oh, if people give you bits, they can unlock emojis. I'm like, all right, cool, whatever. And so I took a bunch of emoji out of our Discord and put it in the Twitch.
Yeah.
And it was like, this is 3,500 bits. I don't know what the fuck a bit is. Andrew's told me 100 times. And he's in the chat and he goes, why is this emoji $35? And I was like, I don't know. It said 3,500 bits. I thought it was like a nickel. I just put in like the default. It's the default amount.
Nice.
And he was like, no, 100 bits is $1. And I was like, oh, fuck. Why is that the default amount? Assholes.
Also, give me $35.
Also, give me $35 for this jackass Miyamoto emoji. So, yeah. Anyway, we want to thank the following patrons for their kind donations, starting with Brian Guido Hassin.
And Brian Kim.
Casey McGinty.
Michael Castro.
Ishitru.
Chris R.
Chris Courage.
A Discontinued Cigarette.
Craig C.
And Craig Cargill.
All gave us money.
Yay.
And you can too at patreon.com/retrowarriors.
Did they give us 35 monies for a Miyamoto gift?
I hope not. I was talking to Andrew in the chat and I'm like, oh my God, I didn't know it's on stream. You go watch it on the YouTube. I was like, I didn't know it cost that much. Oh, I got to go change that. And I wrote a note to change it. I've still forgotten to do it. And then he immediately bought an emoji and I was like, stop, Andrew, stop.
He knows he can just give you money in person, right?
I'll send him JPEGs for free. I don't know why he's buying them. It's not on the blockchain or whatever. It's just a JPEG.
Right?
Anyway, thank you so much for listening. We'll be back next week. And as always, let us cling together.